Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Successful Leader, hosted by me, Andrew Tallents, the self-coaching expert. In each episode of the show, we hear the insightful confessions of a successful leader who wants to inspire others to live their professional and personal dreams. I am always keen to hear your feedback, particularly in relation to the kinds of leaders you would like me to invite onto the show in future. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rich insights from our special guest. Hello and welcome to another episode of Confessions of a Successful Leader, hosted by me, Andrew Tallents, the self-coaching expert. I'm delighted that Isabelle Ducellier has joined me in the studio today. Welcome, Isabelle.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for welcoming me and being able to pronounce my name. Not easy.
Not easy. Good. Well, we always start our podcast by getting to know our guests. So please tell the audience a little bit about who you are and where your focus is, right?
I guess your program is called Confession of a Successful Leader. So for me, confession, I will start by my private side, because normally you always start with your professional side. So let's start with my private. So as you can hear, I'm French, although I think I left France in 93. Now I've been moving. I think I stopped counting after 25 because it was depressing. But I've lived abroad since then. I'm 56 years old, and for the moment, I have no problem to disclose it yet. It might change, but for the moment, I'm fine with that. I have 3 grown-up kids that I have produced myself. And then I'm remarried with Viking, Per, and he's a widower. So I managed to get 3 kids on top of my 3 kids. And so we live in Stockholm. And now the kids are moved. I mean, they moved out. But previously to that, we live in a big kibbutz, I would say, with 6 teenagers trying to survive. What else? Now I live in Stockholm, but a bit on the countryside. And that allows me to have around me dogs, cats, chicken, goats, horses. So it's a kind of a farm project, but 20 minutes from the city center. And this is only possible in Sweden, which is probably a reason why I live here and I'm enjoying it so much. I have some project with permaculture. So, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm stressed about war or whatever, but I really like the possibility to produce by myself. So most of it is a failure. Either the weather will never allow my vegetables to grow, or my goats will eat them before they even goes out. But I have beehives, so we have a lot of honey and a lot of potatoes and stuff. So that's kind of fun. During my free time, the common pleasure is horses. So I ride all the time, all types. My holidays are on horseback, and I go more like trailing expedition in countries where horses are really at the heart of the culture. So I've been to Kyrgyzstan, I've been to Patagonia. I'm now working on a trip for Uzbekistan. I've been, a bit everywhere where horses are important in people culture. And when I'm here, I play polo, or at least I try. I try not to injure myself and have fun, which is a lot of fun, but sometimes a bit dangerous. On the professional side, which might be more interesting for your audience, I don't know. So my background in terms of education is really marketing. So I've done a master in a French school at the beginning in international marketing. And then I've done as well an MBA at INSEAD in Singapore. And then finally another MBA in Boston at Harvard. But it's always about global brand building and leadership. So that's what I've been doing. And I think I can say I split my career with a small c in two. 22 years working within the wine and spirits industry. And I was with pure expat product. So they would move me from one country to another every 3 years. And where really the branding was my main concern. Then, now for some years as well in the consumer health. So I've been working as general secretary for an NGO, which is called Barncancerfonden. It's a Swedish NGO, and they collect funds for research for pediatric cancer. I will probably explain later why. Then I work at McKinsey, nothing to do. And then I've been the CEO of a company called BioGaia. It's a listed company here in Stockholm, Nasdaq, that develop probiotics. So, the little bacteria that make you good. And my last, I think it's the last operational position as CEO, was CEO for a Norwegian company called Orkla Health, developing mainly vitamin, mineral, and supplements. And since January, I have decided to go on the other side. I've been challenged by boards all my life as the CEO, and now it's revenge time. No, it's not a revenge; it's just fun. So now I'm sitting, or I'm working, or I serve. I don't know how you say it properly in English. In 4 boards. There one Swedish medtech company called Divisor. We do DNA diagnostic tests. One is a pharma doing nail fungus Eric's product, Moberg Pharma. One is more into cosmetic well-being, and it's a very big online player, Lico. And the last one is a bit weird. It's a Vietnamese company. It's not listed, and they do as well probiotics, a different type of probiotics, spore-based probiotics, but extremely interesting R&D. And as a board member with mainly Vietnamese sitting in the board and the owners, that's an interesting journey. So that's in a nutshell me.
No, I love it. And I'm looking forward to hearing more detail about the journey in terms of that expat life, obviously landing somewhere and then having to negotiate what was going on then with the theme of the branding and marketing, and then moving into the NGO space and obviously into the portfolio. So we've got a lot to talk about, which is lovely. Where we always want to start, though, is what's been driving this. And in my experience, for a lot of executives over the years, it's the childhood that shapes us. So tell us a bit about your childhood, what it was like growing up for you, and how did that shape you in terms of what was to come for you as a leader?
Well, I think I would have wished to tell you I have a fantastic childhood with very lovely parents that love each other and love me, and everything was fantastic. Thanks to this love, I feel like I was a balanced leader with a high self-esteem and self-insight. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So I think my parents were pretty dysfunctional. My father was, and they had all their good reasons. So I'm not, and here it's more like psychotherapy. We're not in the confession even. It's like really deep dive into, very serious topics. So I'm not going there. But my father was, extremely strict, and that's an understatement. So I had to be number one in everything I was doing, like music. I should have the first prize, sport. I should win all competition. At school, if I didn't have 20 out of 20, which with the grade system in France, I would be punished. Really hardcore. And basically that worked pretty well a long time. That was my driver. That was my way. I just wanted to be the best. But then I realized that was pretty toxic. And I think that generated me in my first year of leadership as a pretty bad leader, because I was driven by this need to prove him that I was the best, which is obviously not the best start to be a good leader. But at least, when I moved to Sweden the first time, so I was 39, and I was the first CEO female within Pernod Ricard. And, I've been the first salesperson. I've been the first expat female. I've been the first female sitting in a management team. And I was the first CEO. And that day, I've decided that I don't have to prove him anything anymore. And I was this release, because suddenly from being a leader to prove him I was good, I just did it for myself and for the people I was working with. So, but it has been really a long journey, and I don't think the journey is finished. It's still a ongoing process that I have on myself, because I know where I'm coming from. And I know that that was probably not the best gift. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person that regrets. I guess that's my background, and probably I would not have that energy. And I mean, you don't need to push me. I go by myself, and that's probably coming. So I should perhaps see it as a gift anyway. But I know that it was really heavy for me to be in that toxic dependency about what he would think about me, because then I would be extremely dependent on what people would think about me, which I don't think either is a good way to be a good leader. So, yeah, every time I do, I mean, I try really to work on personal development. I've been through a lot of different programs. And last time I did something which is called the Enneagram. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's resonated very well in me. But I mean, as usual, I end up being this number 8. You know, I think 80% of the CEO in this world are number 8, which I mean, this strong side, because we are fearless, we are visionary, we move, we take people. But the problem is that we have difficulty to show our vulnerability. And that's something I've really learned to say, okay, to present myself as fragile and not perfect, I don't see it as a weakness anymore. I see it as a strength, and I see it as a tools. When I come to my team to say, well, I don't know, or I'm scared, or whatever. I mean, being true, even when I'm weak, I think helped me a lot in the 2 last position I had as CEO, where I had to run major transformation. So you hurt a lot of people, but at least people were trusting me because they saw me showing my weaknesses, and missing my strengths is not possible. I'm like scary. So that's about it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's very normal what you've told us, and that preamble that you had there around the fact it wasn't a functional family. Most of the chief execs that I've come across and indeed been on the show, that's been their background. You know, there's been either dysfunctionality, or sometimes there's been the death of a role model in the family, which has really shaped this kind of cocoon to become emotionally unattached a lot of the time to outcomes, which drives a lot of us. So 39 years old is not bad. It took me 47 to get to that point. And I'm hoping that people that are listening to this or watching this can relate in some way, that if they are behaving in such a way which has been very successful for them, but it just feels as something not quite right, to ask that question about where is it coming from. So I'm really pleased that you shared that. Let's just go back a little bit to the end of maybe the teen years, because we're looking then about, you know, your decisions around career and what it is that you might be doing with your life at that point, bear in mind how it had been to that point and having to be the best. How would you describe yourself as that sort of late teenage girl, and looking at your career? What was going on for you then and the decisions you were making?
I'm extremely curious, and I love to learn, and I have a lot of energy, so I've never enough. So it's like, okay, learning more, learning more, learning more. So every time a job proposition where came out, I never saw that it could be a problem. So I always see life as a big opportunity, because I'm going to learn more. And which was really okay when I was by myself, but then I got married, and then I got kids. And the problem is that I don't see problem. So if it's like when I moved to Sweden last time, I moved there, I was divorced, I had 3 kids, no house, because Pernod Ricard called me on like the 8th of July, and I was here on 8th of August. So I live in a hotel room with my 3 small kids, no school, nothing to take care of and taking on one of the major acquisitions that Pernod Ricard run. But I say, well, it's going to be fun. We are going to live in a hotel room and with the cat, and it's going to be. And my kids sometimes they say, Mama, you don't understand what it means for us, because you are so positive and you see the new thing as something positive. And for us, and especially when they've been teenagers themselves, I mean, change is scary. You know what you get, you don't know what you get. And so sometimes, even as a leader, I mean, you face the same thing. Change is really something complicated to manage by most of the people. So the good thing is that I'm always positive toward change, but over the year, and not when I started, I've been able to say, okay, wait a minute, slow down, because you go very quickly and you're already there while you are still home. But people need more time and people are different, and that's okay. I mean, some enjoyed the trip directly, some has to be convinced, some are in denial, some refuse, you never know where they are on their curve, but you have to get everybody on board. And that was the same for my kids. I think I have 3 kids on my own, 2 are exactly like me, and 1 is exactly the opposite. And I still sometimes say, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why is it? But as a teenager, the sky was the limit, and I enjoy every ride, even when it didn't work well out. But I thought that doesn't matter. It's fine. I learned something.
And did you know at that point that you were going to have an international career where you would travel around the world as an expat?
I was hoping for that because France was getting a bit too small for me, wanted to learn. And, but to be honest here as well, I think I flew first time. I was 19 because I had to go to this jury to get into my business school. So I'd never been around before, never fly. I was so excited to fly for the first time, 19 years old. And now I'm like platinum on 3 main airlines companies. So I fly like I take the bus. So, but very quickly I knew that's what I wanted, because it's a never ending learning process. Some expat has been more difficult than others, like Poland has been very tough. And that's where I underestimated the problem. Was before, that Poland now is very easy to live. But at that time, it was not the case. We struggled to have the telephone. We struggled to have everything. Nobody was speaking a word of English. So it was really a tough time. And we acquired a company that was very communist in a lot of things. So that was difficult. And my first husband decided that it was too difficult. And I cannot blame him either. But that's where I might, it has as well opened my eyes, say, wait a minute, Isabelle, you don't see the problem, but they are there. So don't ignore them. That's not fair.
What have you found, and it may have changed in your 20s and 30s and 40s, I don't know, but what did you find worked for you in terms of the people around you, but you were moving a lot as well, where you would listen to them when they said, Isabelle, there's a problem here? Because sometimes if nobody says that to us, we just plow on and we don't see it. What kind of conditions or what kinds of people around you allowed that to happen for you where you could spot the problem?
I think Sweden has been an eye-opener because we are exactly at the opposite in terms of leadership. And the first 6 months, I've done mistakes after mistakes. I take a silent as a yes. In Sweden, silence is really, really, really negative. In France, they expect you as a CEO to know everything, to take all the decisions and to take them quick. In Sweden, the decision is taken by the group. Therefore, takes a lot of time because you really have to address and ask everybody's opinion. And it's not something you do because you have to. It's really something genuine into the way the company are managed in Sweden. And totally non-hierarchical, which is exactly at the opposite of the French system. And I realized pretty quickly that something was not doing right. And I was here as well at the acquisition of Absolute. And I remember say, okay, now I have to do something different because the Swedes were thinking that they did the right thing. The French had another agenda and we never managed. Say, well, now we are in bed together. We bought you. We have to find a way. I'm ready to go to go near you, but you have as well to come near me. How do we do that? And I basically invited, you will find it funny, an English guy, so very neutral, and normally
Yeah.
you hate us. So that
Yeah.
was like, okay, nobody can say that. I took a French that will take my party. So we took an English guy. Colin Moon, his name is. He lives in Sweden, has been married with a Swedish woman, and he really helped a very ironic way, very British sense of humor way, to explain the differences between Swedes and French, not judging, but just putting on the agenda. Say, well, nobody has right or wrong, but that's the way they behave, that's the way you behave, and that creates misunderstanding, but everybody wants the best for the company. And we started to work from there. And then I remember being on stage, it's like, whoa, I'm sorry. But the fact that we were smiling around it makes that we managed to get a fantastic job. But I learned a lot. And then I bought a book that I take every time I've moved to a new country. It's a book from Hofstede. He's a professor in Netherlands. And it's as well about this cultural dimension in leadership. At the origin of that book, I think there was an IT company that asked him to try to every country with different power distance index the same per country to try to have, okay, France look like that, Sweden looks like, and then I took France and I look at Sweden. I say, okay, we have obviously some differences in terms of hierarchical, in terms of individualism, in terms of taking decision. But that helped me. And every time I've moved to another country, I say, okay, that's France, that's Poland. That's the way and it's not, but it helped me at least to realize the differences. And when you realize, then you can move on. Then you do mistake anyway. But that's my little toolbox.
Yeah, well, the awareness, the awareness and curiosity is really important. Again, and not enough CEOs and organizations put the time aside for that. There's a lot of time doing, particularly when you're acquiring businesses. So it's lovely to hear that. What about personally? Where would you say during your career, and it might have been during that period of the expat or later, where did you find your career the most challenging, where you had to really dig the deepest in terms of that period of your career?
I think Poland was not that complicated. But the funny thing is that I did Poland after 3 years in Sweden. I came back to Sweden later. So Sweden is totally in hierarchy. The group is taking decision. Poland is France by 2. So I came with my very consensus-driven type of leadership, and they were paralyzed. She doesn't know what she speaks about it. Of course I know. I have already the answer in my head. I just learned not to say the end decision. So I'm letting you guys coming to me. But they say, no, you're the boss, you take the decision. And it was very obvious, and it's a real story, and it's a very tiny detail, but it says a lot. I arrive at the office, and obviously I arrived pretty early, and then come Magena, my assistant. And then she came to me, but really in tears. Say, Magena, what happened? Said, Isabelle, you don't like me. What do you mean I don't like you? Yes, I do like you. I appreciate your work very well. I say, no. Why are you saying that? You do your own coffee. And then I stopped there because I remember when I arrived in Sweden, I asked my assistant to do my coffee, as every French leader does at that time. I mean, I guess it has changed. And my assistant in Sweden said, the coffee machine is there. Yeah, okay. And then I have this Magena that for her it was so important to take care of me and coming with the coffee. And I said, okay, we switch back to something else. But then I think as long as you are curious and you listen and perhaps as well, if you learn the language, because there are a lot of things that nobody can explain you about the way people think, but the way the language is structured told you so much about the way people think. And so if you are open to understand, I think you can solve most of the issue. Well, having said that, I've not lived in Asia where probably would have been more complicated. I don't know. I think the same principle works for every country.
Let's move into the second part of the career you described earlier. So away from the expat world and more into this, I think you said the NGO as well, and then up to date. So in your 40s, I'm guessing, and up to current day. So just talk about that transition and what was behind it at that point. What was the catalyst for that, and how did you cope with that transition?
I mean, I had a very, very difficult period in my life. I think that they work as accelerator of your own self journey. So it started with my mother committing suicide. Suicide is very complicated. And as a daughter, this feeling of guiltiness. So, it has been a very complicated process. And then I thought that was the worst thing that happened to me. And that was not the case. It went even worse, where after Harvard, I came back and I was like top high, just got my graduation, won the best award of the best strategy, blah, blah. I was so high and so happy. I got a job. Yeah. And 6 days after, came back to Sweden, and my youngest son, Benjamin, he was 15 at that time, got a diagnostic of osteosarcoma, which is a skeletal cancer. And then you do exactly what you should not do. So you Google it and you say, 25% only of the kids survived. Okay, that's a bad start. And then you say, well, it's full-time commitment. So I decided not to work because I ended up being a nurse. I had chemotherapy 4 sessions per month of 4-5 days. So it's 20 days full time at the hospital. So we simply lived there in a 10-meter square room, bed. And the poor Benjamin, 15, that was supposed to cut the umbilical link with me, gets stuck there. And you live in a pediatric oncology department during 1 year, where very often in the morning you wake up and the kids in the room is not there anymore. It has been really, really difficult and a real eye-opener. And as well, I think the fact that he's still there and lives and enjoy life like nobody else is doing has taught me the more powerful tools I have in my management probably is gratefulness. I'm so grateful all the time for everything. That plus yeah. So, and gratefulness is a very, very difficult process because we have, at least I had the tendency to complain and always to see what was wrong. And suddenly you end up there where you don't know what's going to happen the day after with your own children. That teaches you a lot. And that's where I moved to consumer health. And I say, well, I'm done with spirit. Yeah. I need to do something a bit more meaningful. And that's why joining this NGO, people, the headhunter, when they look at my CV, they say, could you explain us? Say, yeah, I can explain you. Say, after that, I was so grateful that I say, well, I have to give back. And at that time, I worked at McKinsey, and being general secretary in an NGO, the chairman said, but Isabelle, I'm sorry. We cannot pay you. You will earn like 4 times less than before. But obviously, that's not where I'm coming. I'm coming because, okay, I don't have any fortune myself. The only thing I have is my brain and my experience. So I will take care of that NGO and let's try to find new ways to raise funds. And it was fantastic years heading that NGOs. So, yeah. So, but it's different, but it's 100% purpose driven. So the leadership is, and sometimes you have very emotional people and sometimes you might not be very professional, but the purpose is so strong that the company culture is just a fantastic place to work.
Well, thank you. And that's really useful having that background about why you then moved into that. And what did you find when you were in the NGO in terms of this purpose is really important? Because with the greatest respect, if we're in the drinks industry or whatever it might be, and we can see the next role coming up, Purpose doesn't become a big part. It's about the drive and the ambition, isn't it, to keep going up. So you had that driving you. What did that mean then in terms of looking for the future for you, in terms of you had maybe another 5 or 10 years, you were thinking of full executive life, probably, if not more. How were you seeing that panning out for you once you'd finished the NGO role? Did you plan that far ahead or just see what happened?
No, I mean, I knew that I needed to do it at that time. So I said, well, I take it and we'll see later. I don't care. I mean, and if people don't see the value of that, then I don't want to work for that people. So that's okay. And basically, my next jump was for a listed company, very big company, very international, doing probiotics. And the chairman saw that in me. And he was not scared that I was coming from an NGO. He just saw that, wow, somebody who has the courage to go down, I would say, on her career because of the purpose, plus her background, plus her education, plus, I mean, he just believed in me. And I worked for BioGaia with him during 5 years, and they have been the best 5 years of my life. So I'm sure. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you're born a leader, and I don't think there are leadership style. I think it's a constant process that is nurtured by what you are facing in your private life and at work, and it's okay. And I prefer the leader I am today than the leader I was before, so that's okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question about that. I'm curious. Let's expand it into the person that you are today compared to the person you were before Benjamin had his condition to deal with. What do your kids now think about you? Someone talking about your offspring, your 3 kids. What do they think about you as a person now compared to how maybe you were before you made this change?
Oh, I don't know. You should have them. I think I've been strict myself with them. And I raised them alone almost because when we got divorced, Benjamin was 3 and Clémentine 5, Juliette 7. So I mean, just to have it working with my job and stuff, I had to be a bit strict and with guidelines. And I probably have been a bit too much. I mean, I don't know. But I know what they say now as young adult is that they know I'm here. Whatever. Anytime, anywhere. I'm here. They know I'm here for them. And for me, that's what I'm proud of. Then I've done mistakes and I've some kids have more closer than others, but I mean, they know I'm here for them all the time. And now that I'm not working as executive anymore, so I don't have like 60 files open constantly, like, oh shit, I have to do that. And we had a holiday in France in July. I say, Mama, you're so chill. I say, I suppose it's positive. Okay, in your world. Say, yeah, but I mean, you're so relaxed. And say, yeah, but I mean, you have to understand. I mean, I've been CEO, raising you alone. I mean, it's not an excuse, but it's not that easy all the time. I mean, multitasking, yeah, sure. But I mean, it has its price. So I was not totally relaxed every morning. No. But it seems like I'm moving forward.
Absolutely. I've got time for a couple more questions, Isabelle. I've really enjoyed our discussion today. The first question is really some learning for the audience as you've moved into this portfolio career. So I know it's recent, but you've given up the executive life now and still busy with all of these other advisory positions that you have. So what's been the biggest learning for you in terms of being able to make that transition to let go of the executive reins and move into this very different kind of life?
First of all, I took that decision because I was not aligned with the board of my previous job. So, and I have difficulty not to be aligned because I'm not the type of person that is saying what you want to hear. And they took me with one mandate that I enjoy, that worked very well, and changed the mandate in something that I was not believing in. So it has forced me, I would say, I'm only 56. So it's a bit too early. But I asked myself, okay, wait a minute, isn't it another gift? And I say, well, I take it as a gift. I try. I don't know, I might be wrong. So I book myself in my Outlook on January 26th. I have a meeting with myself and I'm going to do my performance review. Isabelle, what have you done? So I'm not sure. That's because I know that I have so much energy that sometimes sitting in a board where You're not hands-on. You don't. It's a different role. Sometimes it's like, oh, Drew, so much, but no. But I hope I could be the best partner in crime to the CEO, because I am at their position. And actually, in boards, you have a lot of experts. You don't have a lot of ex-CEOs. So I'm not the one who is going to ask a detailed question about the marketing plan. But he knows or she knows that I've been facing the same issue, so we can talk. And I try to be a support. And I really enjoy that. I think it's really very interesting position, but it's very new. So we keep you posted.
Absolutely. And transition is always very hard. I've worked a lot with CEOs that transition. And you say that letting go in the first place and letting the CEO make the mistakes, but with you advising and supporting and being there is very hard to appreciate that. One last question for you as we come to the time. And it's one I want you to think about, and I'm sure the audience would appreciate this question to you, is bear in mind where this all started. If you could go back in a time capsule now to Isabelle when she was a teenager and having that drive to be number one in everything as she was growing up and not losing your childhood, but certainly having a very different childhood to some other kids, what advice would you give to them, knowing how your life has turned out now, where you are right now, everything you've gone through? What would you say to Isabelle as a teenager?
Believe in yourself, but it's so difficult. People, when they see me, they believe this woman, she's so successful and blah, 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 and she feels so confident. I'm not. I'm always questioning myself. It's awful, but it's better. And I really work on that. I go to India every year for this Ayurvedic retreat, where the purpose of the retreat is really to put your body, your soul, and your mind in harmony. And I'm so much not in harmony most of the time. So I always try to work on that. But if I would have much more confidence and have that in mind when I was younger, it's not because I work for probiotics, but believe in your gut, because your guts, there is good reason why you should listen to your own compass, and that drive me. I have extremely high integrity, but I didn't give me a chance. I've been so hard on myself. So really try and say, well, Isabelle, look at what you've done and don't try to please or just be. And it's super hard. I don't know if some people have succeed. I really tried.
No, it's really hard. I really appreciate you telling the story today and all the things that have happened to you and how that's been a gift in some way. We never want these things to happen, but there's been gifts on the other side. So I really appreciate the honesty, the vulnerability, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Andrew.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Confessions of a Successful Leader. You can access all previous episodes of the show at confessionsofaSuccessfulLeader.com. If you are interested in finding out more about conscious leadership and self-coaching, just type in Andrew Tallents into LinkedIn or your favorite browser, and you'll find my contact details and all the content that you need. Until next time, don't forget to stay present, curious, and above all, conscious.